What's up, YouTube fans? Today we're going to do a comparison of the Transform Element Op Leader with the Takara Tomy MP-44 Optimus Prime. So I've been wanting to do this comparison for a while, but I had sold my MP-44. So thanks to James Magaletta, he's been providing me all sorts of very expensive figures, this one included. So thank you, James, once again for supplying this for review. I also want to say these reviews, as always, I say this every time, this is my opinion. So every review is biased. This is especially biased because I'm giving you my opinion on which one scores better in different categories. But if you purchase one or the other and you're happy with your purchase, then you win. These videos are really here to help for someone that didn't buy one or the other and is looking to see, hey, what are the differences? What are the similarities? Where are the differences in quality, and so on and so forth. So without further ado, let's get started, and we'll start off with accessories. Okay, just a upfront forewarning here. I'm not including the MP-44 trailer in this review, so you don't see those accessories here. So that includes the trailer, the roller, and the drone. The reason I'm not including that is I'm going to also decrease the price on this, the retail price, when we get to cost. So I'm going to go by Takara's price. They got the $250 for the MP-49, which is their Nemesis Prime. It doesn't come with the trailer or the roller or the drone. So we're going to just pretend like we purchased this for $250 and these are accessories it came with. Regardless, very easy to see that Takara Tomy blows away TE-01 in terms of accessories. They both have the Ion Blaster. They both have the axe. They both have an alternative, roundish kind of head. And then here's where things differ. You've got this trailer hitch, but then Takara's left with all of this stuff. So easy win for Takara on accessories. For Sculpt, again, this is a very subjective part of the review, but we'll put the G1 cartoon there. And when I look at the G1 cartoon, I think, both of these really hit it very well. They both have some features that really make it stand out. Especially the face sculpts on both are very well done. But when you start moving down the chest into the waist area, the MP-44 really nails the proportions and just the overall look. They got the rounded arms versus the squared off arms. You've got the more rounded hip skirts here. These are more squared off, where these are more kind of rounded. So everything looks a little bit closer to the cartoon. I mean, it should be, right? It's Takara Tomy. They should get it right. So while TE-01 has a really good effort, and I think they got darn close, I'm going to give Sculpt to the MP-44. Now, a lot of people complain about the backpack. And, depending on what shot of the cartoon you looked at and when you grabbed your screenshot, it always looked different, right? There was always a different look to his back. He did have a little bit of a backpack. They both, the TE-01 is just very, very clean. There's a lot of breakup, a lot of stuff going on from the back. So, that's a tough, when you talk about Sculpt. The Sculpt in the back here, but nobody really looks at their figure from the back, usually looking from the side or from the front. So while I really like how TE-01 did this, and by the way, this is my personal choice for Optimus Prime, I'm going to give Sculpt to MP-44 because I think they just nailed it. They nailed a cartoon, and they nailed the look of Optimus. Right, next we'll talk about the paint. So the TE-01 is basically unpainted. There's a few spots, I believe these yellow pieces are painted. The face is painted. These are, I guess, opaque. I don't know if they're paint or just the glass is that color. And then these silver parts. And that's it. There's nothing else painted on here. It's all molded plastic. When you look at the MP-44, it is fully painted from head to toe. I think the only thing that may not be painted is a couple of little plastic pieces here. Maybe they are all painted. I think it's pretty much fully painted all the way down. So, no contest. Takara Tomy wins on paint. And build is where things start to differ. So, the MP-44, my original copy, had several issues. So, I had the knee issue, where the ratchet would fail and then the knee would just, not go on the ratchet anymore. I had this issue with the legs being kind of loose, and then I had some paint issues, some paint chipping and paint scratching, and then I had some panel fitment things like this. By the way, this is not my copy, but the same issues exist. So when I first got this, I knew about the knee, so I was very careful to bend at the upper knee first and then the lower knee, and it actually engages that way. That's how it's meant to be used. And on the first use, the knee locked up, and I could feel that resistance. And if you feel resistance in this, you're not supposed to bend it because that's what's going to break it. So I texted James and said, hey, you know, this knee is locked up. I'm going to take it apart. I took it apart. Luckily, I was able to avoid breaking it. And now I'm just being very careful not to push that knee past the point. It was this one that kind of got stuck. But now it bends okay. It's just that delicacy and that fragility is what really, really bugs me, is the build quality, right? How could they release a product that has that? And then this is the other thing that, and his is actually a little bit worse than mine was. Got a lot of play in the ratchet on these legs. It's got ratchets, which is nice, going in and out. But the amount of play in there is just insane. And that's kind of bothersome. And then all these little panels. He doesn't have any paint issues, although I see there's a little splotch right there. Let's see if I can point that out. Hopefully it shows up on the camera right there. I don't know if he painted that himself or that's just the way it came. But that's the kind of sloppy, build issues that I found on my original copy. So for that reason, I'm going to give build to Transform Element. I don't have any of those leg issues. I don't have, loose joints. I don't have any articulation problems. I've transformed this dozens of times with no issues. This one, I'm always afraid, and we're gonna have to transform it here so we can get to alt mode, but I'm always afraid that I gotta be very careful, especially for a figure of this price. All right, next we'll talk about the articulation. So I'm gonna do it very quickly and go through each of them. The Transform Element head is on a rotating swivel, goes up to there, down to there. You can articulate the ears, and then it rotates all the way around. The arm is on a ratchet that goes all the way around. It goes out to there. Rotation of the bicep, double jointed elbow gets you up to there, not all the way, but almost all the way. Rotation at the wrist. You have two joints at the fingers, one at the base pin and then one in the middle, and then the pointer finger is separate so you can have him pointing. And then you got a double jointed thumb, which is also needed for transformation, but very nice hands too. I like these. Kind of remind me of the Fans Toys hands. You do get a rotation at the waist. No ab crunch on this guy, unfortunately. One of the downfalls of this. You do get hip skirt. You can get up to there, basically 90 degrees, back to there, out to the side, and this hip skirt moves out a little bit of the way. No ratchet this direction, just in this direction. You get a more than 90 degree bend at the knee, double jointed. Rotation at the knee, not at the thigh. One of the complaints some people have. You have an ankle tilt. You have a toe tilt up, no toe tilt down, and just the ankle tilt to the side, but no ankle pivot this way. Alright, so that's it for the Transform Element. For MP-44, you have the head on a ball joint, so you get all directions. You can go side to side. No movement on the ears. You can change out the head, but none of the heads have movement on the ears. So you get a lot of nice motion there. You got shoulder joints up to there. And there's actually another joint, so there's the inner joint and then the outer joint, so way more movement on that shoulder. Rotation at the bicep, double jointed elbow gets you about the same range as the TE-01. Rotation at the wrist. Same kind of fingers. It almost feels like they, Transform Element sort of copied what Takara did. So you got base pin and the second one in the middle, and then you got the thumb on a ball joint, or thumb on a rotation joint. You do have to take the hand off if you want to mount the axe. And this has its own little articulation there, so you can bend it up and down. Whereas the TE, that folds into the arm for the X. Continuing on, you have a rotation, but if you lift it up, you get a full rotation all the way around in any direction, basically. And then you have a crazy ab crunch, right? You can get just up, down, back, in whatever direction you want. It does break the sculpt a little bit, but much more articulation. You do get legs up to there, and it has the auto transforming hip skirts there. You get back to there, out to there, all on ratchets, very nice ratchets there, except for this one, which I find to be very loose and causes problems when you're trying to put it down flat. You get the double jointed knee, which has the 2 ratchets, which I'm always scared to bend. You get the ankle tilt all the way out to there, which is a great motion, and then you get the ankle tilt this way and this way. So really nice articulation. So just by that demo, you can see very clear winner is going to be MP-44. When it comes to transformation, both of these guys have a pretty complex transformation. I remember shooting the video for these, and it is kind of a chore to do that transformation on camera. But the thing that really gets me on the MP-44 is the amount of panels and flipping and folding, and you've got to get it, the order pretty much exactly right. And then when you get there, and we'll talk about the alt mode in just a little bit, but when you get there, it's not worth the payoff, right? The amount of flipping and folding. Now, TE-01 also has a very complex transformation, and there are some challenging parts, but when you get there, it's worth it to me. And we'll talk about alt mode in a little bit. So for that reason, I just don't find this fun transforming it. It's okay, but it's just not fun. I have fun transforming this. In fact, I transform it all the time. So I'm going to give transformation to TE. Now, engineering is something that is really tough to judge here. So the MP-44 has a lot of engineering going on, right? To get the level of articulation it has, to get the voice box in there, to get the the look of this kind of rounded off look without making it look so boxy, to get it into the truck mode. There's a lot going on there to get that engineering there, and the transformation kind of shows that. But one of the things that kind of really bugs me about the MP-44 is all the gaps and stuff. There's a lot of holes, and the TE is such a clean robot. I mean, there's no gaps anywhere. You might not even know that it transforms because it's so clean. On the MP-44, even on the front, forget about the back a second, because a lot of people say, hey, we don't look at the back of the figure. Well, look at the front of the figure. All these gaps. You actually have a little bit of red showing through, which is inside the leg. You got these gaps here, and by the way, that doesn't. I thought maybe there's not all the way in, but that's all it goes. And just a lot of just little details that it seems like, couldn't we get a cleaner transformation? So I'm going to give them a tie on engineering. I think TE did some really good things making this a clean robot, but they've got some limited articulation because of it, and they don't have as much going on in terms of the playability factor. So we're going to call it a tie for the engineering. All right, here we have them both in their alt modes, and from the front, MP-44 looks really good. I think they did a great job with the chrome and some of the lights and stuff like that, and the detail. It looks great, but as soon as you come to the side and the back, things start to fall apart for MP-44. I mean, you got all this kibble all over. The gas cans look okay. The TE-01 looks pretty good too. Wherever there's chrome here, you got that silver paint here. But then when you come to the back, just god-awful mess back here. It's just so much kibble. They tried with these rear feet here. They tried to make them into lights, but it just ends up looking very strange. TE-01 also, it's got feet on his back, but at least it's, consistent look on the back here. You got at least the flat back. Here you got all sorts of stuff going on here. Lots of gaps and holes and stuff like that. So when it comes to the truck mode, if you were just looking from the front and you never looked at anything else, and even with the trailer, which we say we weren't going to include, it only covers up to here, and you got this other junk in the front, and it just looks ugly to me. So I'm going to give the alt mode to TE-01 because I think they did it more complete. You know, they really, and they both roll, by the way, they both roll just fine. There's nothing wrong with them. But for me personally, the TE-01 has a more consistent and more thorough alt mode. The final factor here is the cost. So I mentioned earlier, I'm excluding the trailer, the roller, and the drone. So given the price point for MP-49, which doesn't include those things, that's $250 MSRP, and given the MSRP on this guy, which is version 3, is $145. So we're going to give cost to Transform Element. Clear winner there. Final thoughts wise, you can see the score down there. It's a tie. Actually, it surprised me a little bit. I thought Transform Element was going to come out ahead, but instead it came out as a tie. So here's kind of where things break down. So for me, I prefer the Transform Element because I don't need the crazy articulation that MP-44 has. And there's some sacrifices you make by getting that articulation. Someone like T-Man, you know, articulation is very important to him. That's the top priority. And so at all costs, you know, give me that articulation. So, I mean, obviously this is the most articulated Optimus Prime, transforming Optimus Prime we've ever gotten, right? Hands down, it wins the articulation category. But it's not that clean. And it's kind of a pain to transform. And actually, to set up this shot, which is a very simple pose, you know, it's not a very complex pose. It actually took me a while with the MP-44 because it kept moving, things kept falling. The arm is a little bit loose. So I'd pose it, and then the arm would fall down, and I had to put it back. The legs kept kind of getting out of position, so I had to get it right. And that's something that I don't like fiddling. But some people, when they set up their pictures or their shots or their articulation on their shelf, that's something they enjoy. They enjoy articulating their figures. I want to get this into a nice pose, put it on my shelf, and not have to worry, right? And this one's nice and solid. It doesn't move, but you can't get it into the dynamic poses. So it really depends. What are you looking for? What do you want out of your figure? What do you want out of your Optimus Prime? Me personally, this suits my needs better, so I'm going to go with this. But you had to decide, you know, what suits you better. So that's really it for today. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.